If you had $1 million to invest into only one kind of ammo, what would it be? Alright, but you may be asking yourself, why limit it to just 3 calibers? Well, I'll start by saying that if we look at the military or even law enforcement around the world, they tend to be issued gear, from their rifle to their optic to even the ammo that goes in the tools that they actually carry. Now, we as civilians are responsible to arm ourselves, which is a blessing and a curse. We have to fund it on our own, but we also have the freedom to choose based on where we live and what our goals are. I'm gonna purchase this even though this other thing over here is really popular. And what I don't want to do is buy a wide variety of things and not have any depth in them. I want to first invest with a forward-thinking future mindset and invest in products with depth so that I can train and be better. I also don't want to have 10,000 rounds of 200 round batches of different kinds of weight grains and speeds, and this one's an OTM and this one's a totally different caliber. I would rather have 10,000 rounds of the exact same kind of ammo for me to train with today, and man, stockpile just in case for the future. And if we were to be having this conversation back in the early 2000s, it probably would have been pretty straightforward to just say, well, we're gonna go with 45 ACP for a handgun round. If I'm gonna go with a carbine or something in a common rifle, I'm gonna go with either 5.56 or a good old 308 battle rifle. And finally, for a precision round, why not just 300 Win Mag? That's what the military is using, and bro, it works really well. The problem is there is now a new development as the Army has been looking to acquire the 277 Fury and the SIG Spear. Not to mention, we're getting totally different calibers like 6 ARC, or the other side, a slower heavy round like 8.6. So I think you can see my predicament. We are at the cusp of future ammo technology already here at our doorstep in 2025, and I don't want to be the guy with an M1 Garand in 30-06 as 308 battle rifles started to become a thing in the Cold War. I do not want to invest too deeply and be left behind. Now, I must have 3 calibers in 3 different categories that do different things for me. The first one is my everyday carry handgun round. This one has to be flexible, and I need to be able to acquire it fairly easily. Next, a very common rifle round, something where I can pick it up off the shelf anywhere, and it also needs to have good ballistics. And finally, it can be a little bit more expensive, but I want a precision round where I can have hunting abilities as well as some area denial capabilities as well. And there's a lot of good future ammo on the horizon. So without further ado, let's dig in, start with EDC. All right, first, the EDC predicament. The EDC round and the EDC gun that you carry is probably the most important one because it is applicable today when there's peaceful times, and man, it's still going to be very applicable if the world does fall apart and the proverbial Chinese start falling out of the sky. So, being very selective on what it is that you carry today matters tremendously. Now, when it comes to the round, I want it to be fairly well priced, easy to source, and pretty easy to shoot. I have a wife and kids around me, and if my wife did have to actually pick up that gun, which is the gun that most frequents everywhere that we go, I want her to be able to shoot it as well. So lower recoil is desirable. But inside of lower recoil, we also have to pay attention to a trend that has been happening in ammo development since ammo became a thing, which is speed. Speed kills in ways more than one. But as an example, if we take a look at the 45 ACP, which has been known as God's caliber for years, we all know that that 230 grain projectile, compared to a 9mm, 115 grain, let's just say, is going to do more damage. It's going to have a harder impact on the human body. With that 230 grain projectile, because it is bigger, we tend to carry less of it. We can fit less of it in a magazine, and it does start to get heavier. Additionally, it's going to cost more, simply because there's more materials that go into the projectile, the powder, the brass, all of it. And finally, because you are launching a heavier round for every action, we have an equal and opposite reaction, it's going to be harder to control that recoil. And I think this is why 9mm, as boring as it is, has become such a standard. Even look over the past 40 years, 9mm has been used and employed with great effect for our US military. Granted, they're shooting plus P ammo, which is plus 10% pressure. So if you go plus P plus, you're getting plus 20% pressure. And that's where we go back to speed. Speed kills. And this is something that we have seen being developed in all rounds. But sticking with just the EDC conversation, the US military making big changes with their NGSW program, Next Generation Squad Weapon Program. With all of their new optics and lasers and night vision and everything else, they adopted the SIG P320. Chambered in what? 9mm. That caliber stayed the same. It's unfortunate they went with the 320. Not a big fan of the platform myself, but it is interesting that they stayed with 9mm. Another point to make. I'm old enough to remember when there was an ammo shortage and everyone was looking at the ammo on the shelves disappearing. We were struggling to get 5.56. We were struggling to get 9mm and 22. But what was still on those shelves? 40 cal. It is probably one of the least desirable rounds out there because it's not quite 10mm. It's not quite 45. It's not 9mm, it's kind of just a bleh round. Despite the fact that it does shoot well and have good effect, people were not as interested. But as soon as 9mm disappeared, people were going out and buying Glock 23s chambered in 40 so that they could then go buy a case of 40 and continue to train and shoot. So yes, stockpile 9mm, but also pay attention to the trends in ammo, because if you invest into the most popular round, everyone else is too. And that can have negative impacts on your purchasing power as prices fluctuate and availability fluctuates as well. Now, how popular is 9mm? With a little bit of research, I figured out that 9mm accounts for 20% of all firearms and ammunition sales worldwide over the past 10 years. That is an incredible amount of guns and ammunition in just one caliber. And popularity is really nice, but we still have to ask ourselves the question, why? Why is 9mm so popular? And I think the answer is found in its flexibility. Being that the technology has continued to develop alongside that round with hollow points and plus P capabilities, we have a round that is small enough to easily carry even 30 rounds on body. Plus, even if you're getting up into the subcompacts like the SIG 365, where you can carry a ton of ammo in a very small frame. I know your grandpa may love 45 ACP, but dude, if I'm gonna be picking a handgun round today, it's gotta be a 9mm. Now, the other thing that we have to keep in mind is that the US military as well has been using 9mm beyond just a sidearm platform. If we look at the MP5, MP5SD, MP5K, worldwide, that round has been used in something on a platform like this, something that is a bit of a PCC, a sub-carbine, a larger pistol kind of category where we're not necessarily getting better ballistics, but we are far more accurate as a shooter because we have more points of contact onto the firearm. It can still stay very small and compact. We can hide this gun away or work inside of confined spaces, but something like this Flux, still chambered in the same round, is an amazing asset, being that we're still able to stay in that 9mm handgun category. So I can buy boatloads of this round and have a varying level of the size gun that I'm shooting, how accurate I'm able to be. Or if we were to suppress it, we can even get into a package like this. Now, this is still somewhat of a modernized MP5, but that system is very tried and true. And again, I'm just hitting on the point that we are still able to shoot a 9mm. So if all you did from this video was invest deep into your 9mm or any handgun round that you decide to carry, and you're able to build out a good handgun, a good fighting pistol, a larger frame pistol, and then something like this, you're already well ahead of the game. And making sure that you are inside of the same category of caliber, getting a lot of training and a lot of reps, that's going to serve you better than buying a ton of different guns and a ton of different calibers and really not getting much deep, good training inside of one weapon system. Now, one more reason why I find this gun so cool is because I can still get subsonic 9mm rounds, and while it doesn't completely replace 300 Blackout, bro, it is significantly cheaper to shoot a gun like this in subs and or super than it is 300 Blackout. Now, the round won't have quite as great effect, but I'm still able to carry all 30 rounds. The rounds are really, really lightweight, and odds are, if I need to feed my silent carbine, I can go over to my buddy's house, a neighbor's house, and just ask to borrow some 9mm, as opposed to, hey, how much 300 Blackout do you have? I am a fan of 300 Blackout, but there's something to be said about investing into one platform and having a broad capability with it. Now, all that being said, I still have to consider the fact that there are other people that live in different states, they live different kind of lives. They even have a different budget. And with that, if I was, say, in Alaska, I'm not gonna be looking at 9mm. I'm probably gonna consider something like a 10 mil or a 357 Magnum and something like a revolver, just because the animals out there, they're so much bigger that even people are probably wearing thicker material, more jackets, and so I need something with a little bit more speed, with a little bit more oomph behind it. What do I think could be on the horizon that could actually make me stop carrying 9mm? To be honest with you, it is a round that has been out for a long time, but it's only now starting to catch up more and more speed, and that round is the 5.7. 5.7 is essentially, it takes the same argument of 5.56, a small, lightweight, fast round, put into a handgun category. It was even originally designed to penetrate soft body armor. So being that 5.7 is starting to increase in its popularity, the manufacturers that are making guns for it as well as ammunition, definitely gonna keep my eye on that. Guys, before we move on, we have to take a minute and thank some of the sponsors that make content like this possible for you for free every single week. First and foremost, Steel Industries. If you have any questions around night vision, you're looking to upgrade, you're looking to buy your first 14 or dual tubes, if you wanna kind of ask around about what are the best lasers for the civilian world, well, go check out Steel Industries. Their customer service team is second to none. Really good group of guys. Now, next, you want to know what is not cool? It's getting lost or misplacing your friends in the woods, as we may say. For that, you should go check out Onyx Off-Road. So Onyx actually allows you to download maps in the area where you're trying to drive around and navigate, whether you're four-wheeling or dirt biking. You can also set waypoints. So I can share these waypoints where we're going and or where we have been. So if we have to backtrack in case we get, again, misplaced in the woods, misplacing oneself, then go check out Onyx Off-Road. Next, guys, Wetworks. Wetworks is making some incredible nylon gear. So if you're looking for some accessories or components like a slick plate carrier to go along with your 11.5 rifle, or you're wanting to load out a chest rig to go with your long boy bolt gun, well, go check out Wetworks because they're doing some really good quality stuff at affordable prices. Thank you again to Wetworks for the sponsorship. And finally, guys, we have Die Free Co. Now, Die Free Co., they care about the Second Amendment, which, as strange as it sounds, there's a lot of gun companies out there that genuinely don't. There's a lot of accessory companies out there that are selling hand stops or grips for your rifle, but they still don't actually care about you. They just want your money. And I can tell you personally, after sitting down and having a meal with the owners over there at Die Free Co., they really do care about the Second Amendment and about you. So go check out Die Free Co. They have some really awesome products from knives to firearm accessories. With that, let's get back to the video. So the next category is going to need to be a rifle. I definitely want to graduate from a pistol. It needs to be NATO supported, of course, still in production, common, inexpensive, low recoil would be ideal, reliable, and ideally it would also be able to be deadly from 0 to 500 yards. Now that's a tall order, and as much as I want it to be something like this 308 16-inch battle rifle, it just doesn't quite fit the bill when we have something like, unfortunately, 5.56. And again, it's getting really boring at how reliable that is. I know, don't say that out loud, knock on wood. We want this to be reliable, but let's be honest. The 5.56 has such a wide capability. The kinds of ammo that are produced for it right now, even the hard to find M855A1, it's a spicy round. And 77 grain OTM is starting to become what feels like in mass production by a lot of different brands. Now, if we're still being perfectly honest with ourselves, 5.56 is not that deadly out at distances. You can make decent impacts, but it doesn't buck the wind very well. It's very prone to be blown around. It doesn't carry a whole ton of kinetic energy, especially on an 11.5 like this. Past 400 yards, you're just not dumping someone like you are with a 30 cal projectile. But this category is not designed for me to have standoff distances and sniping an elk way a long ways away. No, this world is for simply upgrading my 9mm capabilities to something that is deadlier. It's able to defeat more armor, and I am stopping having a caliber that is really only deadly at 50 yards, which is 9mm, I'm starting to push that out to 300, 400, 500 yards. Now, something like this is still very applicable in today's day and age if we're considering home defense. I want to have a rifle caliber that transfers a lot of energy at close distances. But if I want to start to stretch the legs, I can, of course, upgrade to an 18-inch rifle. And really all that we're getting with an 18-inch rifle is not an increase in accuracy or an increase in deadliness, although to a degree that is true. And that's really just because we're getting extra speed out of our projectile. The bullet stays in the barrel longer and it has more time to pick up speed. And there it is once again, it's the speed that kills. Now, what is the practical capability of something like this for an everyday civilian today? Well, for one, I have a ton of 77 grain OTM out of an 18-inch barrel going a little over 3,000 feet per second. Man, I can do a lot of work on a deer or any other small game with a good accurized 5.56. And if you are going to be using something like this for hits on soft tissue, let's say, probably going to want to be very selective on the round itself. So I would caution you against stockpiling 62 grain, the green tip, the penetrator round, because it's designed to penetrate through drywall, vehicles, and soft concealment or soft cover of some kind. So there have been a lot of records that show dudes in Afghanistan will bill drill someone with green tip, and as everyone's hopped up on whether it's drugs or adrenaline, they just don't necessarily go down because that round is designed to stay intact and it doesn't tumble on impact. So there's actually another upside to 5.56 there, which is because it is so common, you can get a wide variety of different kinds of ammo, from soft point to a penetrator round to something like a frangible round, or even copious amounts of ball 55 grain for training. So be selective on the caliber that you're picking. For me, the world is 5.56 right now, but I'm also very selective on the kind of ammo that I'm shooting. Primarily right now, it's either 55 grain for up close or 77 grain OTM if I'm trying to be precise. Now, outside of today's climate, why do we have stuff like this? 11.5s with lasers and suppressors and 18 inches with bipods and high power optics? To be honest with you, it's because at the end of the day, if we look at history, every nation does fall. Throughout all of history, every nation is destined to fail at some point. They always get invaded, burned, and reset. A different kind of leadership takes over, and we are responsible to care for our loved ones and our communities. This is a big thing that we're trying to push here with Dirty Civilian. We also just take faith in the fact that we are not first and foremost citizens of America. We are primarily citizens of the kingdom of heaven. That doesn't mean that we're not responsible to take care of others around us and protect and defend those in need, which is why we have things like this. Now, ultimately, there's a lot of rounds that we could select inside of our standard carbine fighting caliber, but the flexibility of 9mm, same idea stays the same when we have flexibility with 5.56. It's a very versatile round. I can have an 11.5. It's lightweight, fast, carry copious amounts of ammo, and it's pretty accurate, very deadly as well. And then I can load up some 77 grain as well, carry a whole ton of ammo, and get fairly precise out to 600 or 700 yards. So the versatility of the round, as well as the fact that it is everywhere, as boring as it is, yeah, I'm gonna be sticking with 5.56. Now, honorable mentions, man, I'm a little bit concerned about stockpiling too much 5.56 just because 6 ARC is so incredible. We were actually here a couple months ago shooting a 2-day match at K&M, the match was designed for PRS guns, very heavy 25-pound rifles with 26-inch barrels and crazy muzzle velocities on bolt guns, very precise guns. And we had a buddy, Eric, who's been shooting a 6 ARC on a 14.5-inch barrel for quite a while. Man, he hung with us. He did a really good job, primarily because he's a really good shooter and he knows that weapon system, but also that 6 ARC round in the same platform of a small carbine, still taking the same upper and lower as a 5.56 AR-15, he was still making hits out to 1,000. He was still calling his shots in the wind and making good follow-up shots. He was hitting movers. Eric did a great job with that 14.56 ARC. And just again, like how we saw that 30-06 shift over into 308 and ultimately 5.56, I'm starting to get the sense that 6 ARC is one of those rounds that I really need to keep my eye on. All right, our third and final category. I'm okay with this round being a little bit more expensive because I'm probably not going to shoot it quite as much. It also has to give me a very different capability than the other two rounds. Now, if we look at what the military has done with this precision style category, they've gone to something like a 300 Win Mag or a 408 Chi-Tac. Those rounds are really heavy. The rifles for those rounds are fairly heavy, but it's acceptable because of the extra capability that it gives you. So I'm going to take the same school of thought. I'm actually going to select a 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, a lot of you could advocate for something of a bigger round, something that carries more energy into a target if you are considering something like a sniper rifle of some kind. Here's the thing, based on where I live in Tennessee, I don't have any big game that needs a round bigger than 6.5 Creedmoor. All things considered, it's going to do exactly what I need. I additionally do not want to spend a boatload of ammo just to go out and train. Now, the use case for this is for me to get better at precision shooting today, be able to hunt with it if need be, which is why I have a lighter weight SIG Cross as opposed to this 25-pound MDT gun. And I also want to be able to have standoff distance if needed. Now, again, this is the proverbial Chinese are falling out of the sky. If that scenario did happen, being able to have an extra 500 yards beyond my 5.56 rifle's capability, that kind of maxes out at that 5.67, depending on your barrel length, I can start pushing this to 1,000 or 1,200. And additionally, you may start to argue for rounds like 270. It's a really great hunting round. 270 does carry a lot of energy inside of 500 yards, but 6.5 Creedmoor starts to outperform and carry its energy because of the ballistic coefficient, really just how the projectile is designed as it flies through the air. It is carrying more velocity and thus more energy from 500 to 1,000 yards. Also, the military has adopted it and it is starting to even edge out 308. This could even be argued as, well, man, you're still taking just a battle rifle. I fully agree. I understand that this is not a 300 Win Mag style stopping a vehicle at 600 yards style gun, but it is something for me to train and get really efficient with precision shooting. I can buy a fair amount of it because it's such a common round and it is very accurate, especially put into an Accurai system of some kind. Finally, to wrap up the precision style category, there's something to be said for psychological impact of one person taking one shot from a long distance away and causing some panic because of that round impacting. Now, again, we are talking about that proverbial scenario that I hope to God never actually happens, but I want to be able to have that capability of keeping people at a further distance than just 5.56. Does everyone need something like this? No. But man, if I'm only going to have 3 calibers, if that's really all that I'm doing, I want to have a precision round that is capable out to 1,000 plus. Now, all that being said, let's wrap this up by talking about the equipment that would be necessary to support each of these kinds of rifles. All right, guys, to kind of wrap this up a little bit, we also have to consider, as we look at the weight of the rounds, the weight of the guns, the cost that's associated as well, because it is important to stockpile certain kinds of ammo that you're actually going to be training with and using. But then things happen like 6 ARC come out, and because of the way the round is shaped so funny, we have a curved mag that almost looks like an AK mag. So that may start to force you to run your gear or buy different gear in order to support that ammo. Maybe all you're doing is just throwing an extra P mag in your back pocket and getting some training. It's a great way to go. But if you are trying to level up, there are other considerations. For example, everyone always wonders, well, how much armor should I be wearing? What weight armor? Level 3A, level 4, what should I be actually putting on my body? And typically, we're going to be advocating that you are wearing something that will defeat what you're actually shooting. So it's funny, if you start looking at the new SIG Fury round in that SIG Spear rifle, man, there's almost no armor that's actually going to stop those penetrator rounds, the armor piercing rounds. So you're going to have to actually consider the equipment that goes along with some of this too. Again, if you're getting into long range, there's going to be higher cost associated with the optics and the glass in order to actually perform and get better out at distance. Kestrels are not cheap, for example. So before you just dive into a new round, look at the big picture and consider everything that's going to be going into just one simple platform in order to squeeze the most amount of capability out of it. All right, finally, guys, I think for every man, and hop in the comment section and agree or disagree with me, but pretty much every man has a dream of EDCing something like this, a chest rig, and an AR-10 with a laser and a light and a high power optic, but alas, that is not the case. We have to honor the men of D-Day and Rhodesia in the Cold War while LARPing on the flat range, which I think they would appreciate. Now, if you're someone who doesn't have much of a concern about chest rigs and, you know, concerned citizen kind of category, and all you're really worried about is just EDC and hunting, great man. Carry your 9mm, carry your 45, if that's what you want. Go buy a 12 gauge and you're probably gonna be pretty squared away. But our concern here at DC is forward thinking, not just in ammo selection, but we're considering the lives of our children and our wives and future generations that we may not even meet. And it's funny how even the choices that we make today in stockpiling ammo, whatever kind of ammo that is, could help or hurt them in the future. It extends from the ammo choices that we make to the daily choices that we make with our health, with our sleep habits, the kind of content that and music that we consume as well. So if you really are concerned about future generations and wanting to set them up for success, it doesn't actually start with this stuff. It starts with your own mind and your own healthy habits. All right, guys, dad advice for you. Drew's not here to challenge me, so I had to come up with one on my own. It's very applicable to this whole category. There's that old Bruce Lee quote that comes to mind: "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks one time each. I do fear the man that has practiced one kick 10,000 times." Make sure you actually go and get some training. Finally, guys, thank you so much to Patreon. Genuinely, we love you guys. Thank you so much for reaching out, for supporting us, for getting in the comment section over there at Patreon. They don't have any of the ads in Patreon, so they can just hop on, watch the video straight through. They can DM us, and we're as fast as possible to get back to those guys. So Patreon, thank you very much. If you're curious in a little bit of merch, we do have some stuff on our website, so hop over there and check it out. And with that, go get some training.